Hey friends, welcome back to the Apocalypse Homestead. It is August 1st, 2022. So this is your August 2022 Homestead update. I've got a lot to show you. So pour yourself a cup of coffee maybe, have a seat, and thank you for spending the next few minutes with me while I show you what I got going on here. So we'll start in the hoop coop as I often do. So we got some bad news on the breast chickens. You might know that I had to order another dozen eggs from a different company because the dozen that I ordered initially got destroyed when my internet provider came and hooked my internet up. He unplugged my incubator to plug in the router and the modem. Didn't tell me, so my incubator was down for about 12 to 13 hours, and I lost all the breast chickens except for one. So I ordered more from the same company, and they said it was a 5-month. It was now a 5-month back order, and they were $20 more. I spent $62 initially on the first dozen, and then it was like $72 or $82, I think. For the next dozen. It was a 5-month back order, so I said never mind. I ordered it from another company called Pivot Farms, P-I-V-O-T. I do not recommend you use this company, guys. They were very responsive in the beginning. I ordered in April, and in May I messaged them and asked them what the ETA was, and they said a couple months. Because like I said, it's a specialty breed of bird, and everybody wants them now. They're becoming very popular in the homestead community. So everything's on back order now. So that was in May. Last week I contacted them and asked them for an update, and they did not respond. They had a function on their website where you can enter the order number, and it'll tell you the status of your order, and it said that my order was not found. And I had paid $92.99 for these eggs, and they said that, and the website said the order was not found, and their customer service was completely ghosting me. So fortunately I was able to request the money back from PayPal, and I got it back from PayPal, but I do not know what happened to them. They just disappeared off the face of the earth. Their website was still up, but their customer service was gone. So really disappointing, because I just wasted 4 months of my time trying to urgently get my meat chicken operation set up as we approach a very critical point in this whole food shortage thing. This fall is going to be very bad, and I'll talk about that again later. But anyway, my one breast chicken turned out to be a hen, which is good. So she'll be laying eggs, and I'll try and find a way to get more. And then I took these hens, these eggs from my black Australorp chickens that were fertilized by my Buff Orpington rooster, and they're doing very well. And I don't really know how to sex them yet, and I could probably look that up pretty easily. I just haven't had a lot of time yet, but it looks to me like all 3 of them are hens, and because they certainly are not crowing like a rooster. So I don't really know. Hopefully they're all hens though, so we get eggs. I don't mind eating a rooster, but that's not why I did it. I did it so I can get more egg production. And I have 8 egg-laying hens right now, which is more than enough for my wife and I. But I'm also thinking about possibly having to feed my dogs, that sort of thing. So a few extra eggs a day could be very beneficial. So this is really exciting. I've been wanting to do this for years. There was a podcast that's no longer around. I love dragonflies. Anyway, it was called the So Edible podcast. This guy named Stacy and his wife Amy. It was a really good podcast, and they were off-grid and permaculture people. And one of the things that he did, he had a YouTube channel that he did very limited videos on, but one of the things I saw that I was fascinated by was he was growing this algae in these little kiddie pools called the Zola. And I'm not sure if this is a Zola or duckweed, because I later found out that duckweed is very similar. So it's an algae. You can grow it right on top of the pond there, or on top of your kiddie pool here. It doesn't have to be a pond. And it doesn't look like much right now, but these were just little tiny plastic packets of it when I bought it. So they've already probably at least quadrupled in size. And so it'll be a couple weeks before I can fill the pool up, and then I can start harvesting it and dehydrating it and start saving it for chicken feed. But it's super high in protein, and it's super nutrient dense and very, very abundant. Like I said, this is only about 4 days old, and it's already like quadrupled in size. So I'm real excited about that because I've been really wanting to do that for years, really. But I just never did. So there it is, and that's hopefully going to be a very big part of my off-grid chicken feed operation. And I might actually buy another pool or two and expand that, get more of that growing. Because if I can ever get the meat chicken operation going, there's going to be upwards of 40 or more chickens on the homestead at any one time. So it is August 1st, and if I'm doing this, you should definitely already be on your way to doing this if you live in a cooler climate. I'm zone 8B, southern Mississippi, so if you're in 5 or 6 right now, you should already be well on your way on your fall garden. But I have started the fall garden, so I'm not sure if I talked about this in previous videos, but I wanted to do an experiment to see if I can get fall tomatoes. So I planted some tomatoes in seed trays here, and I just used some old seeds that I had that I wasn't really sure were going to germinate, and that I wouldn't be terribly upset, if I wasted them. If they didn't germinate, then they didn't germinate, so so no loss. So I don't really remember when I planted this, probably 2 weeks ago. So we'll see if I can get fall tomatoes out of this. Then it'll be something I can do year over year. I can do 2 plantings of tomatoes. I have a very long growing season, so we're not going to get our frost. The average frost date, first frost date, according to Farmer's Almanac, is November 11th, and I really don't remember getting a frost ever that early. It's usually late November, early December. So we'll see if I can get a decent amount of tomatoes out of this. I have also started my first succession planting of broccoli. I'm going to plant about 12 broccoli plants every 2 weeks for the next month and a half or so. I've got a tray of cabbage. It's 36 to a tray, and I've got 2 trays of Brussels sprouts, so 72 Brussels sprouts. So I might try and get to the farmer's market this fall if it hasn't all fallen apart. I'm gonna plant that way, and I'm gonna have to really start making some room in the garden for that, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. Just an update on my orchard. This is my fantastic avocado tree. I don't call it fantastic. That's the name of the actual variety, and I have it in a container for now. Because in my zone, once that's mature, it'll be cold tolerant to 15 degrees or lower. But right now it is not mature. It doesn't have its real bark. It only has this green bark here. This will die in about 31 to 30 degrees. So we don't want to put that in the ground. I want to be able to move that indoors when it gets really cold so that it doesn't die. But once it develops its true bark, that brown thick bark, then I can put that into the ground here in my orchard. Now I don't really like the back to Eden method of gardening for actual from annuals. Probably mostly because I just don't have access to enough wood chips to keep wood chipping my garden constantly like that, like you need to. But here in the perennial orchard here, I have dumped many trash cans full of cut grass and leaves on here, and not only has it killed the grass out in this area, and it also gives the chickens something to pick through, which is kind of a pain in the balls, but whatever. But everything that I've planted here so far, which I just have the Meyer lemon tree, the Chicago fig tree, and the La Feliciana peach tree over there. Everything has really taken off and really appreciated being mulched since I've done that. So every so often I'm just going to keep adding to this because it'll start building the soil underneath it, and especially because the chickens just absolutely destroy it every time I add to it. So I can either put a fence around it, or I could just deal. I don't ever want to kind of punish the chickens for wanting to be chickens. Hopefully they're finding food to eat in here too. So, but my lemon tree has one little lemon on it. That's pretty cool. You usually don't get fruit for like 5 years after you plant a tree, but my peach tree has 3 peaches on it. So that's really exciting. I'll take it. So I know that next year will be way better. I've been when I planted these trees, I put lots of rabbit compost in with it, so they got plenty of fertilizer to do well right off the start. So these planters I have here have they're called Bristol Black Raspberry, I believe they're called. I got it from Gurney's, I think. Gurney's or Stark Brothers, I don't really remember. But I kind of got a wild hair up my butt to buy these. It was very late in the season, so I wasn't sure if I should put them into the ground right away, so I put them in these potters. And I'll probably do that in the spring after they get more established and more adjusted to the heat. This is my kratom tree. If you don't know kratom, it's a relative of the coffee plant. It's very medicinal, and it was having a kind of a difficult time looking like this for most of the spring. But the leaves are starting to get bigger and more green because I've added some fertilizer to it. So she's getting kind of happier. That's a red veined kratom tree, which makes it's a more of a painkiller vein. They also have green vein, which is more of like an anxiety treatment, and then they have the white vein, which is like more of an energy booster. So I didn't choose the red vein when I bought it. I just bought it from a cutting from a guy, and it turned out it looks like it's a red vein. So I'm perfectly fine with that. That'll give me some kind of pain relief if I ever need it in an off-grid situation. So here in the garden, we'll start from the outside so you can get a good look at my sunchokes, just growing like crazy. And like I've been saying, these are a relative of the sunflower family. So you got these little sunflowers that they're growing. It's real pretty, but most importantly, underneath the ground there, they are growing edible potato-like tubers, which if you're growing a prepared homestead like I am, even though I'm not terribly interested in calorie crops, you really need to have that on there. Really need to have this in your garden, because it not only is it very abundant, but it's very invasive. I will never be able to get this out of this garden bed. They will always be coming back. So I bought 2 pounds from Stark Brothers, and I was only able to fill about 3/4 of the bed with it before I ran out. So for now, I filled the rest of the bed with some ginger root that a friend of my wife's gave my wife. It was some organic ginger root that had started to go to shoots. So she gave it to my wife, and my wife gave it to me, and I put it in the garden. I put 10 roots into the ground, and 9 of them shot up, and they're looking pretty healthy, so that's really awesome. So before I get into the chicken feed operation, which is the vast majority of the garden at the moment, this is my pepper bed. This is about the only thing that I'm actually growing for my own consumption. Oh, it's humid, guys. It's hard to breathe and talk. So there's 96 pepper plants in here. I planted for a very large pepper harvest, and I'm getting just barely enough just for my own purposes. I'm getting just barely enough chipotle, jalapeno peppers to make chipotle, and getting just enough chili peppers to make my my smoked hot pepper sauce. Just enough bell peppers and Cubanelle peppers and Cajun bell peppers to put in meatloaf and omelets and everything. It's just the only thing that's really doing well would be like the Anaheim chili peppers, which that's probably the one that I have the least amount of use for. But But like I said in my last video, soil health is everything. So especially in these last 4 or 5 beds here, I'm going up a slope. So it's low down there and it gets higher as you get up here, and the higher you get, the less topsoil there is and the worse the clay is. So I was taking out wheelbarrows full of red, like cemented clay out of these beds. But there's still a ton of clay in there, and it needs a ton of amendment. So you can see here, this is my first planting of purple hull peas, and they've run their course right now, so they don't look very good. But from February when I planted it until now, this was very, very well. This did very, very well, even though the soil is crap, because this is a field pea, and field peas love bad soil. So I'll probably, once I harvest these peas, I'll probably have about 7 to 10 pounds of field peas out of this one bed. and then I'm going to show you in a minute, as we get towards the lower ends where the beds are older and have been amended more. Even though they do well in the bad soil, you can see they're doing really well in the good soil. So that's the problem with this pepper bed here, is they're doing okay, but the soil is not great. So they're not anywhere near their potential. So but I've been building compost all season, and I've got a lot of compost to add to these beds, and I continue to grow in my compost system. So I'll continue to amend these beds, and hopefully by the fall, when I start transplanting all my broccoli and everything, these beds will be in much better condition. So getting into the chicken feed, as you can see, so this, like I said, this bed here has run its course. I'm going to harvest these and clear these out and start getting this bed ready for fall vegetables. But purple hull peas, I still have some buckwheat over there growing and flowering, which is really amazing. I don't know if that went to seed and self-seeded itself and regrew, because I've kind of neglected it. But I've got to really start putting some time aside to start harvesting this stuff. Because it's a lot of work harvesting field peas and buckwheat and sunflowers, and I haven't even gotten into the corn and the sorghum yet. But harvesting the first round of peas out of here and shelling them was an entire day's worth of work, just for this little thing right here. So it's gonna be a lot of work. But these are actually black-eyed peas in this bed, and we have sunflowers back there, and then over here more buckwheat and more black-eyed peas. Now the black-eyed peas I actually got from the grocery store, just like in the beans and rice section. I just bought a bag of that were packaged for consumption, but you can grow those. You can plant those into the ground, and they will germinate. So I'm going to have black-eyed peas, and it's probably a lot cheaper than buying actual seeds from a seed dealer. And I just didn't feel like waiting for them to be delivered, so I just bought a bag. I bought a pound of them and planted some of them and whatever. So that's so humid. Like, it's raining every day, so it's keeping the temperature mild for this climate. It's only high 80s right now, maybe low 90s, but it is unbelievably humid. Like, I can't even do like just menial tasks. I can't even sit down and put seeds in a cell without just dripping with sweat. But anyway, this is my most recent planting of sorghum, so it's the least mature, but it makes a pretty looking grass. And also one awesome good thing about a lot of these chicken feed plants is that they're excellent cover crops. So you can see this is just covering this entire soil here. The weeds are down there, but they're not really going to be able to develop very well because they're just not getting sunlight or nutrients, especially these field peas. And as we get, and as you can see, as we get down towards the bottom here, where these beds are older and they've had a lot more compost amendment, the soil is much better condition. There's much less compacting underneath her. They got plenty of room for the roots to go down and get all the nutrients they need. So it's much more abundant. This is purple hull peas here, and you can see it's just spreading out into the walkways here. It's much worse as these. I planted these earlier over here, so it's like a jungle over there. So one thing that I'm going to have to do, I think, is I've got an area back over there that was cleared for an easement for my power lines, and that basically runs east to west. The easement runs east to west, so it gets a lot of sunshine. So I'm thinking about fencing an area in and just getting a tiller and tilling some rows so that I can grow the field peas and let them run wild. And then I especially need more room to grow corn, because I just went to visit my brother in Ohio, and like his town especially, everybody's yard is corn and soybeans. I mean, like you have like a small yard with grass, and then the rest of their property almost right up on top of their houses is corn and soybeans, maybe some sorghum, but tons and tons of corn. And I've got like 60 corn plants growing right here, and that seems like a lot. That might be a lot of corn if you're growing it for your own personal consumption. You know, it's like 60 ears of corn. It's a decent amount of corn. It's, you know, it's not a small amount of corn, but when you need to grow for upwards of 40 or more chickens, you need acres, really. I mean, you really need acres. So as big as this garden looks, and as abundant, got caught on my fence. You know, as abundant as the garden looks, it looks like it's growing tons and tons of food. I've got to feed upwards of 40 chickens for 365 days a year, continuously. So, you know, I'm going to grow more I'm going to grow different stuff in the fall. I'm going to grow oats, and I'm going to grow green peas, and I'm going to grow Malay and whatnot. But here you can see, like there's a walkway right about here. You can't even see it because it's growing out of this bed to here, and then there's some on the other end of this bed growing out into there. It's just spilled over completely. It's growing all up my corn stalks. So it's very, very invasive, and it just needs room to grow that I can't give them in these raised beds here. So and I just have a feeling, I have a really bad feeling that as much as I'm growing here, it's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what they really need for that many chickens. But you can see here's some sorghum I planted. It's going to grain. These actually grow like little BB size seeds, so that's got quite a bit of development to go. And this corn here is making some halfway decent sized ears. I'm going to let this dry on the stalks so that I can store the kernels in a bucket or a trash can without them molding or anything. So looks like that's starting to happen. At least they're starting to dry up, and you know, their lives are kind of ending. We've got buckwheat, more purple hulls, more corn, more sorghum. Or not. No, I don't have more sorghum anywhere here, but I got sorghum here. And this is the first planting of sorghum, so this is really developed. These are really starting to make lots of grains. You can see I'm getting the little pea-sized grains forming on there, so that's really awesome. I think out of all the things I'm growing, the sunflowers and the sorghum really give me the most hope for growing a bulk amount of food in a small space, because there's just a lot. So it's pretty exciting. More buckwheat here, and you can just see how the purple hull is just exploding. It's pulling my sunflowers over. You know, it's just going bananas. It's really good. So I'm gonna let this play out, and I'm gonna harvest it all, and I'm gonna grow more. I'm gonna just see how much I can grow. I need several hundred pounds of feed if I'm going to feed my chickens from what I can grow and not go to the store and buy feed. You can see my asparagus is just doing outstanding here. I was a little bit worried how it was going to do, because I didn't really. Because this is a perennial bed, you know, I don't really have the opportunity to amend and break the soil down. I just have to, but I mean, just one of these plants is growing multiple stalks. All of them are doing that. So next year should be pretty exciting when I'm actually able to start harvesting them. And I guess we'll finish up here with my pathetic looking artichoke bed. The artichokes are not doing well. This bed has become overgrown with weeds, and I have a feeling this is the same situation as my pepper beds and all the other beds that failed when I planted squash in them. I just didn't have enough time to amend this bed to get it properly prepared to grow, especially a perennial crop like artichokes. And quite frankly, I'm not really crazy about artichokes to the point where I'm going to be devastated if I take it out of my garden and I'm not able to ever eat them again at some point. It's not going to be the end of the world. So I think in terms of actual value, I'd probably just be better off turning this into an annual bed and growing more annual foods. Because here's what has to happen too. It takes a year. You waste 1 year getting it before they actually make a fruit, and then they make fruit for 4 years, and then on the 5th year you've got to save the seeds from the fruit because they're not really going to make fruit after the 5th year. So you get like 4 years on, 2 years off, and and it's just really I don't know, I just really feel like I'd get more production out of that bed if I just planted annuals in it. More nutrient value, just more quality from that bed if I just planted annuals of some sort. So I'm probably just going to tarp that over and kill off the weeds and eventually plant broccoli or cabbage or something in there, whatever, for the fall. Or maybe some green peas or some oats for the chickens. Who knows? So, and by the way, guys, one thing that I learned reading about other homesteaders is all the homestead projects that you inevitably end up doing, you can do by kind of just scavenging for material rather than buying new stuff. So I work in construction right now, and I'm able to collect a lot of trash lumber that is still perfectly good. So these are all treated 2x6s, and over here I have my well that's still completely exposed and needs to be covered up with a well house. So I'm going to start building my well house out of all the lumber that I've been able to collect, and then by the time I'm going to be able to build the entire thing up until I need to put the roof on. So I'll need to put some tin on my roof, on the roof to cover it up, and I'll probably have to buy that. But the entire framing and I don't know, I might put hardy siding on the outside of it just to make it look nice. I'll probably have to buy that, but the frame, the actual frame will be completely reclaimed lumber from various projects that I've worked on. So if you're into homesteading, if you know people in construction, or if you know construction sites, talk to the people, see if there's any scrap lumber you can grab off, any trash lumber you can grab off them, even if it's not like full pieces of wood. You can always, you can do things with 4-foot pieces of 2x4, like if you get enough of them. So that sort of thing, just a little advice. Everything on my homestead is built, the rabbit shed, only the 4x4 posts that are holding it up is made with wood that I bought. The rest of it's repurposed. My entire chicken pen, the horse panels are reclaimed. The little egg box that I built was made out of all repurposed wood and tin. The only thing that I put on there that I had to buy was the chicken wire, and I only had to use that because they were getting eaten. So something to think about. Like, my compost system is made from some pallets that I grabbed off someone's property that they gave me that they didn't want, and I'm going to build this well house out of probably 90% reclaimed material. So just something to think about. I know everything's expensive right now, but there's a lot of materials floating around out there that you can pick up and make use of. I'm a scavenger. You know, when people drop screws that are still good, I pick them up. People drop nails that are still good, I pick them up. I mean, it may seem silly to some people, but I mean, I've got a big giant bag full of outdoor wood screws that I'm able to use, and that saves me money. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching my video. Thanks for touring the homestead with me. And I want to end by just urging you guys, time is short, and I know everything seems normal right now, but things are about to go totally nuclear. The farmers are not producing food. The warehouses are starting to empty. Most of the food that you see on the shelves right now is the product of last year's harvest. And so once this year's harvest starts trickling down into the food supply and last year's harvest is gone, there's not going to be a lot to go around, and it's going to be expensive. At the time being, there's still relative stability. There's still food on the shelves, and it's still relatively, you know, affordable. Especially things like rice and beans. You can buy a whole lot of rice and beans and store it, and it's still relatively cheap. And it's not an optimal diet, but it's high in protein, it's high in carbs, it's high in calories, and you know, you won't starve. And you know, if I didn't have already, you know, 2 or 3 years worth of storable food in my shed behind me, as well as a food production system that can feed me, you know, several days a week. If I didn't have that already, I would be spending at least $20 a week on rice and beans, and also something like a Cajun seasoning, like Tony's maybe, or something you can season it with. Tony's makes anything taste good. So I mean, I have a very advanced food saving system because I've been doing it for a long time. But if you're just getting started, rice and beans and seasoning, you know, I would say get 100 pounds of beans and maybe 50 pounds of rice, at least. You know, I mean, like, I would say 50 pounds a person, at least. I mean, I don't even know how to quantify it, but this crisis is going to be prolonged. Things are not going back to normal, and that's another problem people have. Like, everything always seems cyclical. You know, things get bad, but then they return to normal somewhat, and things get bad, and they return to normal. But the Overton window, as they call it, has shifted so far into catastrophe that even when things kind of pull back a little bit, they're still really bad. Like, gas prices have pulled back quite a bit, but they're still really bad. And everybody's like, "Oh, gas prices are so much better," because you got so used to paying $4.50 a gallon, but now you're paying like $3.80 a gallon. You're like, "Oh, this is what a relief," you know. And it's still bad. You know, gas prices haven't gone up, haven't gone down 50 cents or whatever a gallon. They're still up $3 a gallon. You know what I mean? Like, it's still bad. And so, you know, and it's kind of like it's coming back around, you know, like, you know, and gas prices always go down before an election. Always go down before an election. They're going to go back up after the election. The food prices are going to go up after the election. The food shortages are going to hit right about at the election. And when they do, when all of this happens, it's going to be too late to do anything about it. And you know, there's no magical supply of food that they can just break open and feed people with. Once it's gone, it's gone. And you know, the food banks are already stressed out. They've got like 3-4 times as many people as normal going to the food banks. You know, there's only a finite supply of food, and when the farmers are screaming that they're not growing it, that means it's not being replenished, and that means sooner or later it runs out. When it runs out, there's no food. There's no food, you starve, guys. I mean, like, I can't urge you loudly enough to take this seriously, because your life very, very much depends on it. And the worst thing that you can allow yourself to, and I know it's natural, the worst thing you can allow yourself to fall into is to think that, oh, you know, things seem to be getting back to normal, or there's still food on the shelves, everything's going to be okay, everything's fine. Because I'm telling you, once this really sets in, it's going to be too late to do anything about it. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. Even I'm going to be in some trouble. You know what I mean? Because I'm just not. I'm prepared. You know, on the supply side of things, I'm prepared, but I don't know how to implement. I don't know how to implement an off-grid survival, you know, lifestyle. I have the tools needed, but I haven't put it into practice yet. You know what I mean? Like, I got the food. You know, but you know, how am I going to cook the stuff? you know, when there's no electricity, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. Those are the kind of things that, you know, I kind of need to start actually practicing on now that I'm talking about it. But if you're not prepared at all, you need to start getting some storable, shelf-stable, calorically dense food, rice and beans, guys. And buy some seeds and start learning how to garden, guys, because this stuff over here, you know, I'm at the point where I succeed more than I fail, but that took many, many years, guys, many, many years. You can't just put seed into the ground and get food. I mean, you can, but I mean, you're going to fail more than you succeed for a while. And the only way to do it is to do it and learn and adapt and you know, and get lessons from failure. You know, you can't just do that. You can't just skip over that part, and that takes time, and you don't have time. So buy yourself some time by storing some food, and then in the meantime, get to work. Get yourself chickens, guys. And if the time comes and you can't feed the chickens, then then so be it. But at least get the actual chickens for now, and then do the best you can. Do the best you can. You know, start now. Do the best you can with what you have. That's all you can do. Anyway. Again, thank you for watching this update. Thank you for watching to the end if you've made it this far, and leave a comment and a like and a subscribe. And I enjoy our interaction with the handful of people who watch my videos. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you. And if you have any advice that I can give, I'm happy to give. And if you're local and you need help, by all means, get into contact with me. I want to build community, and I want to help you build community, and I want to help us survive this, because the plan is to kill us all. I know it sounds evil, but that's the plan. And the only way we're going to survive that is if we exit and rebuild, like now, urgently, radically. All right, love you guys. Bye.